All right, it is officially playoff picture time here in the 2025 season. Weather's getting a little cooler, so what I'd like to do here, once we get to kind of this time of year, is every Monday morning, essentially just predict every single game from here on out. I use the Pro Football Network playoff machine and just predict who I think will win each game. It's, it's total projections. I'm going to be wrong about a bunch of stuff, and also, if a team is slightly favored to win 10 games in a row, doesn't mean I actually think they will win all 10 of those games, right? There are a ton of flaws in this system, but it's really less about, we're going to get through who I have, making the playoffs, who I have as the 1 seeds and all that stuff. But really, then we will get into each team's pathway. And I think that's the main point, main value of a video like this and going through it like this is we will get to see what each team needs to do to end up in the playoffs, what each team needs to do to get the 1 seed, and what each team needs to do to avoid missing the postseason, and what games end up being important. Try not to pay too much attention to how the actual projections go, and you'll understand why as we get further into this video. But yeah, let's just jump in. Let's start off with the NFC. So with my predictions, this is how each team ranked. I don't have the Eagles losing a game because I just had them favored. Doesn't mean they will win every single game, but if they do not lose a game, then they end up as the 1 seed, Rams the 2 seed, Packers the 3 seed, Buccaneers the 4 seed, Seahawks the 5 seed. It's very interesting in the NFC where it really feels like those 5 teams, and even maybe the Lions, could sneak into the 1 seed. I'm not going to get into every single team once we get down the stretch, but we'll get into a good chunk of the teams, especially in the NFC, where it feels so wide open. For the wild card, even though the 49ers actually end up as the 6th seed here, I think the Lions are very locked in to a playoff spot, so they're a team that we're not going to talk about too much in this video. But the 49ers are a very interesting team because we want to talk about really that final playoff spot, and it feels like the 49ers are really the most volatile in the NFC, although they still are in a pretty decent situation. You see, if we open it up to the whole conference now, so who is the closest? As of right now, the way I have it, the 8th seed is the Vikings, and they're still just 8 and 9. So that's a 3-game jump. You're feeling all right if you're San Francisco, given how my projections go. But we are also going to talk about Carolina and Chicago, 2 teams that I have projected for 7 and 10, but still feel in it, especially if San Francisco ends up maybe falling off due to their injuries, how things can potentially go. So let's put it on the screen now. This is the Niners schedule with the 2 projected losses that I do have on the screen. And you notice right here, what's interesting about this, so I have them losing to the Colts and Seahawks. I have them beating the Bears, Titans, Panthers, Cardinals, and Cleveland Browns. Even if they lose, so the Panthers and the Bears are kind of the 2 teams that are chasing them. The way I have it projected, even if they lose both of those games, they would still get in. They'd be 9 and 8, and the Panthers and Bears would be 8 and 9. That would be enough. So really, you're in an all right spot. It really, for the 49ers, winning 3 games probably gets them in at this point, unless one of the other 2 teams can go on a better run than I currently have them. Although for the Chicago Bears, for example, you see I have them losing a lot of games. I think they'll be underdogs in a lot of games, and this is where kind of the flaw of this system can come into play. Flaw I use in quotes, but just like why I say don't pay too much attention to the actual projections, because are they actually only going to win 1 more game this year? That seems unlikely. It seems like they will win more than 1 game. So again, using this, what do the Bears have to do to make the postseason? Well, it feels like beating San Francisco is the obvious thing, right? If you can, that's the Week 17 game, second to last game. If you can flip that game, that doesn't change everything, but it does mean that now the 49ers only have 10 wins and the Bears have 8 wins, including, assuming they beat the Cleveland Browns. So can you get the Niners to drop an extra game, and can you pick up an extra game? Or I think for Chicago, thinking about how can you win this just outright. You beat San Francisco. I think you split the series against Green Bay. Divisional matchups, that can happen. And I think this game against Pittsburgh actually matters a lot. If you can win those games, beat the Browns, beat the Steelers, beat the Packers once, and then beat the 49ers on December 18th, that might be enough, actually. In fact, the way I have it, that would be enough. So a lot has to happen. But really, I think for San Francisco, the biggest fear you would have is not something going wrong with you, but the Bears getting hot. That could change things. For Minnesota, so for them, You see currently where I have them. Again, they're at 8 wins. They need to pick up 3 extra wins that I have them getting to get into a playoff spot, or have the 49ers drop a spot. Now, the way I have everything set up, the 49ers would not have the tiebreaker. The Vikings would have the tiebreaker in this situation. So if you can make up 3 of those games, again, it might be the Niners dropping a game or 2. Really, the Niners, collapsing might be their best pathway right here. But maybe the Niners do drop a game to Chicago or to Arizona or something like that. And then can you beat the Packers once? Again, kind of coming down to that. They beat the Lions earlier, even though I have them losing that game. Can you win that and then win all the games you're supposed to? It's a lot, but that's probably their pathway to a postseason berth. And then for Carolina, again, another team that needs to pick up, in this situation, they would need to pick up 4 games against San Francisco, but they play San Francisco, and that's actually Monday Night Football in 2 weeks. So that's 2 of those games right there. First, I have them beating the Falcons because of how last game went and just how the seasons have gone for those 2 teams. They have to beat the Falcons. That's like, you have to win that game. And if you beat the 49ers, well, now you are very much in it. Can you get another one of those 49ers losses, and can you split against Tampa Bay? If San Francisco loses a game they shouldn't lose, and you split against Tampa Bay, well, that's enough now. So it's tough, and they have to beat, the Saints again. They have to beat the Falcons, they have to beat the Falcons again, and have to beat the Saints for a first time because they lost this one. So tough loss. It's possible, but signs are definitely pointing towards San Francisco and Detroit being 2 of those wild card teams is the way I have it right now. Again, not getting into every single specific team right now, too in detail, just because it is early on. Once we get further into down the stretch, I'll talk about more teams. So sorry if I'm leaving your team out. It's just I'm viewing this. If you're a neutral fan, this is what's interesting. That's kind of how I'm trying to do it. I will also mention, we'll go to Tampa Bay. So I have Tampa Bay ultimately ending up with 12 wins. I have them losing their first 2 games and then winning their next 6 games. For Carolina, there is another pathway, and that's if you, instead of splitting with Tampa Bay, if you can just sweep Tampa Bay, again, they have to pick up another win along the way, or Tampa Bay has to lose another game. But, I don't know, if Tampa Bay loses, to the Falcons, that was a close game the first time, and they do lose to the Bills and the Rams, can you win both of those games? That would actually give you the division instead. So unlikely, but it is possible. Tampa Bay does have an outside chance at winning the conference. So if they win out, basically, then that puts them at 14-3. What they would need at that point is multiple losses from Philadelphia. I don't have Philadelphia losing once. And then, they would beat the Rams, so they would have the tiebreaker there. That would be enough. So to get a loss from Philadelphia and you win out, but winning out is going to be tough, especially with the Bills and the Rams the next 2 weeks. So let's go to Philadelphia now. You notice there is no L written on their screen because I did not have them projected to lose a single game. However, again, this could age poorly tonight because the Packers play tonight. Maybe that'll change things. They also play, it's the Packers, the Lions, the Cowboys, which is a division rival, the Bears, who we've talked about as maybe a playoff team, the Chargers, who we will talk about in the AFC, at least for a bit. It does get a little bit easier, but then you got the Bills still, again, in this stretch. So this is why I say, you can't just look at the overall projections, because I do have the Eagles slightly projected to win all these games, but, they're not going to win out. They're going to drop some of these games. Good news is, the way I have it projected, if you're an Eagles fan, even if they drop one of these games, that would be okay. But if you drop 2, well, that would open the door for the Rams. Let's talk about those Rams, who I do have splitting against Seattle. I think that feels fair. They played them twice, so I just have the home team winning both of those games. I do have them beating Tampa Bay. That won't be a guarantee. I have them beating Detroit. That won't be a guarantee. But if they can do all of this, and like I said, you get 2 losses from Philadelphia, Philadelphia has a tiebreaker, so you need 2 losses from Philadelphia, but that would be enough to get you the 1 seed. Of course, for the Rams, not only do they need to fight for the 1 seed, they need to fight for the division. This is Seattle and what I have going with them. So for the Seattle Seahawks, you see I have them with 2 losses. I have them losing to the Colts as well, a game that should be a very entertaining game, and I could see either team taking it. Also, the divisions, those are important games. Either team sweeps, and the way I have it, that will decide things. Not a guarantee, but that the way I have things will decide things. It is worth mentioning, even if Seattle wins out, they would need at least one Philadelphia loss to end up as the 1 seed. So it's still very much in the cards. And again, if you can beat the Colts, split the Rams, and then that would, if you even if you beat the Colts and split with the Rams, that would still not get you the division. But if you get another Rams loss in there, another Eagles loss in there, that could end up as the 1 seed. So they're very much in it. And then finally, Green Bay, they're pretty easy because there's no tiebreakers involved with them because they have a tie. So that is the tiebreaker. They are currently, I have them projected for 13-3-1, which puts them a game and a half behind Philadelphia. But they play Philadelphia. So you win that game against Philadelphia, that would put them at 14-3 and 14-2-1. That's it. They do that. They win the division. Although, again, an obvious asterisk behind all of this, just being that they have to win out from there. They do have Detroit. Who I gave them the victory because they beat them earlier, but that could go either way. Of course, they have Denver, Baltimore. You'd have to win out. So need a lot to happen, but again, just goes to show every team's pathway so far forward. That is the NFC. It seems like most likely, the 1 seed just seems so up in the air right now. It might be too early to tell for that. Does seem like we have the 7 teams, though, as it stands in the NFC, but maybe something could happen. Well, now let's go over to the AFC. So this is the current situation that I have here. The Colts and the Patriots both went out, but the Colts get the tiebreaker at 15-2. I have the Broncos of a couple losses. I do have the Steelers winning the division, but massive asterisks on that. We will get into it once we get into it. Bills, Chiefs, and Chargers round out the wild card teams is the most likely scenario, but not necessarily what I think will happen. Full conference here, we have the you see, I think, kind of the challengers that we will talk about. Really, the main ones are Jacksonville and Baltimore. I think those are the ones that you're looking at. Like, it feels like they could find a way to get into it. So we will talk about what do those teams need to do. First, though, let's start off with the 1 seed race, actually, because this is unlike the NFC where it feels like there's legitimately 5 teams that could find a way to get there. There's really a 3-horse race here, one of those being a horse team, the Colts. Let's talk about it. So first, let's just start off with the horse team. Let's talk about the Colts. I don't know why I'm calling them the horse team. So I have them winning out, but again, are they actually going to go 7-0 down the stretch? It seems like it's going to be tough. The good news is, though, again, you have the tiebreaker over New England, and the way I have it set up, I have the Broncos losing 2 games. So all you got to do is make sure that you can kind of keep pace, and even if you end up in a 3-way tie, the way I have it set up with the Broncos and the Patriots, I believe that would still get them the lead. Every now and then there's a weird tiebreaker that I don't think about, but I believe that would still mean the Colts have the advantage in this situation. So you're in a good spot, and they have beaten the Broncos this season as well. So if it's 1-1 there, they're good. So either way, you have the tiebreaker. But again, with the Colts, with the Chiefs on the schedule, it feels like that's a huge hurdle. If they can get past that, every other game feels winnable. Seahawks is going to be tough. Like, again, this is not an easy schedule, but it feels like they have a good chance that they can get past Kansas City, but that's a big F. Meanwhile, for the Patriots, as I mentioned, they have they also are, I do not have them projected to lose, although I will say them winning out feels easier. Again, their next 3 games, Jets, Bengals, Giants. They also have the Dolphins and Jets again on the schedule, and then 2 tough games, the Ravens and the Bills. But, maybe you drop one of those games and the Colts drop 2. I actually think, gun to my head, I'm kind of leaning towards the Patriots being the 1 seed, even if this projections has the Colts as the 1 seed. I just think it'll be tougher for the Colts to win as many games as the Patriots. But basically, for the Patriots, you got to win 1 more than the Colts. For the Colts, you just got to match them. For Denver, they're in the mix. And again, you could argue, again, if they win out, they're still very much in it. Now, they would definitely need some Colts losses here, but I do have them projected to lose to the Packers and once to the Chiefs. I'm going to project a split there. I'll just give it to the home team both times. The other games feel like Denver should be favored to win all of those ones. Although, again, Chargers, they lost to the Chargers earlier. We'll see how well that goes. Worth mentioning, if they get a 3-way tie, the Colts are going to take any tiebreaker in that scenario. However, if the Colts are out of the tiebreaker situation and it is it's just the Broncos and the Patriots, then the Broncos would have the tiebreaker. So if you can just tie the Patriots in that situation somehow, let's say you went out and the Chiefs, you went out, the Chiefs beat the Colts, then that would be enough. You're good. So there definitely is some real potential here for the Denver Broncos. But as of right now, I do have them ultimately getting the 3 seed, which I'm sure Broncos fans would still sign up for. Again, if they get swept by the Chiefs, that's it. That's all that would be the difference. The Chiefs would get the division. That's currently how I have it set up. So you got to beat the Chiefs once, but you beat the Chiefs once, probably a top 3 seed. Well, let's go there to Kansas City. Why don't we? Because, again, they are a team that has a lot of people wondering, are they going to make the postseason? They're only 5-4. I believe they at least entered this week, not in a playoff spot. I do have them kind of comfortably making it in at 11-6. In both situations, I don't have a team. It's a 2-game gap between them and Jacksonville. But what can go wrong? Well, we know Jacksonville has a tiebreaker because they beat the Chiefs. So I have the Chiefs actually losing the next 2 games, Denver and Indianapolis, and then winning out. Well, what if they don't do that? What if they drop 2 games? Well, that would be it. By itself, that's enough. Or maybe you drop 1 game and Jacksonville can make up a game. Again, where are the games that they could potentially drop? Cowboys are weird. Maybe they could do that. Maybe the Broncos are able to sweep the Chiefs, and they are really good this season. You have the Chargers, who have beaten the Chiefs already this year, even though I have them losing this one. The Texans have been scrappy this season. Probably not going to be the Titans or the Raiders, but there is upset potential. Although, again, are the Chiefs going to lose their next 2 games is the question as well. It's just as likely they could change things. And again, if the Chiefs win out, the way I have it, that will be enough for them to get the division. In fact, even if they don't win out, if they just beat the Broncos, that would be enough, the way I have it, for them to win the division. For the Jaguars, you see their schedule. So I have them going 4-4 down the stretch. It can't be kind of understated how much that last loss really hurt them. I do think one way that they can get into the playoffs, though, is by beating the Chargers. So I have the Chargers going 11-6. If you can get that win and then just get one more win, actually, that win alone would be enough, because the Chargers I have going 11-6. So that might actually be a huge game coming up, and that's coming up just this next week. So for 2 teams trying to make the playoffs, if the Jaguars can win that one, that just goes a long way. If they lose it, they can still get in. You'd have to make up 2 other games, though, against Kansas City. If you can beat, let's say, the Colts and the Colts again, let's say they somehow sweep the Colts, that would actually be enough to surpass Kansas City for a playoff spot. So that's an interesting kind of factor in all this. Now let's get over to Baltimore, because for them, I actually think this is less about the wild card, although they can still get into a wild card spot if they can make up some games. And I want to, again, I'm not trying to talk about every single possible scenario, just the most likely ones. And for me, the most likely scenario is the division for them. They're playing Pittsburgh. As of right now, I do have Pittsburgh slightly making it in, but let's talk about why. So, and it's not saying what I think is going to happen, just the way I have things projected. I have them splitting that series, and that's first and foremost. If either team sweeps the series, then that team is going to win the division almost certainly. I do not have that happening. Both teams play each other. It'll be the last 5 weeks of the season is when they play each other both times. You see for Baltimore, though, Cleveland, the Jets, the Bengals twice, and then the Steelers in that first 5-game stretch. Then they have to play the Patriots, the Packers, and the Steelers again. The way I have it shaking out, that last game would actually be for the division, which would be a lot of fun for us neutral fans if that ends up being the case. So that's their way of doing it. Can they make up games? Sure. And even in this scenario, they could lose a game to the Steelers, and if they can beat the Patriots or the Packers, that would actually be enough for them to get the 4th seed. Get the division, because remember you have a division loss with the Steelers losing to the Bengals with the Joe Flacco game, so that actually comes in huge in that scenario. So you got to make sure that if you're a Steelers fan, you got to make sure the Ravens at least get 2 losses if you're not going to sweep the series. And as for Pittsburgh, well, what happens if this is a split? Well, what happens? How can this go? Right or wrong for them. Well, I have them losing to the Bills and the Lions. That feels right? It feels like those are going to be tough games. I have them beating the Bengals, Bears, Dolphins, Browns, and I'm beating the Ravens once. If you do that, that probably gets you in. You are still kind of at the whim of you need the Ravens to lose to two good teams, but you still need the Ravens to lose those games. But it does feel like this is anyone's game. I know right now it feels like it's totally Baltimore, but Baltimore has a bit of a tougher schedule and just they're a game back right now. So both teams' easiest pathway is just to split the series. So okay, that is this show. Again, kind of what I like about doing this is it really just lets you know what are the important games coming up. Like that Jaguars-Chargers game. At first, we're thinking, like, hey, I probably should have gone through the Chargers as well. My bad. I'll do that next week, perhaps. But it lets you know kind of the really important games. For the Chargers, they feel like a playoff spot. Feel like they're in a playoff spot, but if they lose to the Jaguars, well, maybe they are not, right? That rhymed unintentionally. Anyway, that's kind of what I find fun about this whole situation. So, again, sorry, I know I can't get to every team, but, we'll get to you next week. Hey, if a team is in the playoff hunt as we get further into this, they'll force me to talk about them, right? So we'll see how it goes. I'll talk about the Lions at some point. We got a lot more football to talk, but yeah, those are my thoughts on all this. Let me know, what do you think about this? And also, sometimes I do miss some small like tiebreaker formulas. So when I do, hey, let me know those in the comments below so I can not make that mistake again. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.